Troopers and grinders, welcome to Ryan Garcia's world. It's Ree's kingdom, and we're all just living in it. And that's a very, very scary thought for us all. Instead of the war on drugs, it will be Garcia's war on people who don't do drugs, especially those of us who aren't cocaine perusers. It will be off with our heads via Garcia's left hook, and God help us. God help us all. For the next hour or so, my friends, you will be safe in the Skate and Tank podcast with me, Hank the Tank, and the compadre to my left, the Idaho Skatesman. You're safe in the war zone, guys. Trust me, it's better to be around in the trenches in World War I than to be in a world occupied by Ryan Garcia. So we're going to get started with some Rise and PFL results, and then we'll get to our picks for the MMA weekend, and finally, it'll be the main event of the weekend, maybe the month, excluding Max Holloway. But
Hank, how are you doing?
I really am frightened.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know if it's joy, confusion, anger, both. I just know that I'm in a world where Ryan Garcia beat Devin Haney, so things will never be the same.
True.
This is Francis Ngannou knocking down Fury if he won it afterwards.
Well, we're going to get into some recap in the weekend. We're going to start with the MMA portion of the weekend, and then we'll get into the bread and butter. Ryan Garcia pulling off the upset, possibly of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's get to it.
Proud. He made Paulo Costa proud.
So I went 6-10 on my PFL picks, which were pretty lazily put together, if I do say so myself.
A little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I know. With the first result, I picked Thad Jean to beat Romain Debeni, which he did. Picked it by decision because I didn't know much about him. Ended up getting a knockout via TKO 2 minutes into the first round. So I did miss that one, but I did catch Isha's live stream, City Life Project.
I think I picked that Gene. I think I picked that Gene, so I'm happy with that result.
The next fight was Tyler Diamond versus Otto Rodriguez. Picked Otto because I figured, the Pitbull Brothers gym would help him out here, but Tyler Diamond was a lot bigger than he was. Had better hands, and when it came to the grappling, Otto couldn't get anything going. Though he did look okay in spots. Tyler Diamond wins a comfortable unanimous decision.
Guess you don't find out until the fight starts in those cases. And you can't scratch a diamond. You cannot cut open a diamond.
Exactly. We then had Don Madge defeating Brennan Ward via submission in the first round. He hurt Brennan Ward. Brennan Ward just couldn't find Don Madge in there. Yeah. And I did say this would be a pretty contentious bout that I was actually looking forward to. And also, I don't believe it should have been buried this far on the card. Third fight of the night.
It was a pretty exciting bout.
Totally. Yeah. And Don Madge was sort of the matador in there, and he just kind of let Brennan Ward do what he wanted and just evaded him and ended up choking him out in the first round. It's pretty impressive, I thought.
Not bad. I said this kid looked like a prospect and that he might have a bright future with his record and how he was finishing people. But it looked like a close contest at first.
Right, and it just turned out to be a wash.
Complete wash.
Next fight was Murad Ramazanov defeating Laureano Staropoli via submission 4 minutes into the first round.
Impressive.
I was like half watching. Though this Murad guy, I did tell you that he needed Roberto Soldic so bad in the nuts that he threw up on a one championship card. Was a pretty terrible thing for Roberto's first fight in one. But he was undefeated in one, and he was putting in good work. So glad he found a home in the PFL where he'll actually probably get fights booked instead of being in Chaudhry jail. Be on the lookout, by the way, for a theoretical song that may or may not come out sometime
An
in the
old
near
folk
future.
song, country
Mhm.
tune back to the Howlin'
Called-
Wolf days.
Called the Chaudhry Jailhouse Blues that the masterminds of the Skate Tank podcast will be coming out
happened to
with
cook
in
up.
conjunction with the City Life Project.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Listen to a lot of Wolf and Johnny Nash. I'm sure they'd be proud of it once it comes out.
our guy Murad is out of the Chaudhry Jailhouse and into the PFL.
Unveiled.
I mean, what would you call it? The PFL halfway house?
The PFL Rehab Center.
Rehab center. That's a great
He's
way.
in rehab.
And he
He's
got a first round
rehabilitated.
submission, man. Good for him. And you know,
For him.
Mariano Staropoli is not a can by any means. So
No, he's a decent.
good fucking win for this guy.
Yeah.
Our next fight was Timur.
Also, if he was in France, he would have beaten Robert Solidich by nutshot KO. So it's no knock against him.
That's
in
hilarious.
Some places you can win that way.
Right. We then had Timur Kizriev beating Brett Johns.
We called this one too.
Fight went exactly how we predicted. Timur doesn't have a lot of finishes on his record, and he just out Russian wrestling Brett Johns to a boring third round unanimous decision. Yeah. Credit to him. We then had Boritz defeating Enrique Barzola by decision.
This was.
Another fight I called perfectly. Robert, hello, what's up to you, my brother? And the fight was fucking great, man. Both guys had moments, but ultimately it was Boritz just kind of dominated the fight. It's Jay Sharp, my man from Rush Hour. The fucking homie, me and him, big reggae heads. So glad to see Jay Sharp up in the building. Thank you for your support, my man. Boritz just kind of whooped
City Life Clan.
Yes, we're forming together like Voltron, you know.
Yep.
Boritz just kind of whooped Barzola's ass the whole time. Really, I mean, Barzola, man, this guy is just tough as nails. Always in the fight, but he just got his ass whooped, man, and Boritz deserved that decision, and I'm glad my man Boritz got a win because he's an exciting fighter, you know.
Yeah, he's Latin American and he's from Peru, so he's tough as nails. Probably has a leather face too, so he ain't going down. But he outboxed him for the majority of the fight and looked really good.
Yeah, Boritz just kicked he just kicked poor Barzola's ass.
He shouldn't give up hope though. He put on a decent performance, and against a couple of cans, he might find himself with the first round, second round finish, and still.
Or they'll use them for prospects to build them up and get them points in the season, which is just weird.
Yeah,
but yeah,
poor guy.
Then had Goiti Yamamuchi.
PFL jail.
Right. Don Davis jail.
Never
then had Goiti Yamamuchi defeating Neiman Gracie via decision. Another perfect pick on my end. Yeah, I did not know whether or not this would be finished or not, and Goiti hurt Neiman a lot. What the fuck is Neiman Gracie's game plan when he goes into fights, man? Like, I don't get it.
He's a student in improv theater, so he improvises.
Yeah, must be. You have any thoughts on this one?
I thought that he would win, same as you. His last fight before he lost to MVP, which is not a bad loss, by the way, was against Neiman Gracie. And again, when you're returning to PFL, there's no such thing as ring rust. So you're going to look like you did before that. If you're in Bellator or PFL, you come back to that promotion, you know their rules, you know how to fight. So he didn't sustain any bad injuries or had any reason to be on a very extensive break. So he came back and he won in style. But good for him. I wonder how he'll do against future opponents, though.
Right. He seems, he's got fast hands. He's got decent hands. Known as a submission guy. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to win the tournament this year. But shit, good win for him. I would say the finish of Neiman was good. First time knocking him out. But this is like he just dominated the whole fight. Neiman didn't really have a lot of moments.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're just in a PFL system where you just need to get points and you need to do it by finish. So if you don't get enough soon enough, you're already out.
Sure.
At least he'll be fighting for a paycheck, though.
We then have Gabriel Braga defeating Justin Gonzalez.
Wait,
KO.
we missed a fight. What about
Oh,
Kai Kamaka versus Bubba Jenkins?
Oh yeah, I didn't pick that one. My bad.
I think we went with Bubba initially, at least.
I just didn't. I didn't pick it because I wasn't sure about the result. You're right, though. Thank you for reminding me. Let me pull that up.
It was a good fight.
Yeah, break it down.
They were going back and forth. Kamaka was peppering him with shots, and Jenkins was swinging back and landing lefts, landing rights. But eventually, Bubba started to slow down over time. Kamaka was finding better precision with his shots, and he started taking Bubba down and starting to outclass him in on both the feet and on the ground. Poor Bubba sort of didn't stand a chance going into the third round. I think he was already down by 2 rounds, just barely, though. But he refuses to be finished by anybody. The guy already looks like a roid freak, and he looks like a boulder, so it's hard to crack open a boulder. And I don't think Kamaka, even though he wasn't able to get the finish, he looked really, really, really impressive. And I actually see him getting a finish in his future fights against worse opponents.
Yeah,
I see him getting finishes. This kid's really a good prospect.
And I think Kai Kamaka the third's best win in his career too.
For sure. He's got great technique, fantastic technique, and he can't be put out. So as long as you stay in there with him for the full fight, he'll find a way to win. Seems he's one of those fighters.
And
so
I think another testament to the Bellator system like working and building up a decent prospect. Yeah. We then had Gabriel Braga defeating Justin Gonzalez in the first round via KO. I know you paid closer attention to this fight because Gabriel Braga has a good story. I am not up to date on that, so why don't you go ahead and break this down for us?
Well, the thing is, I was mostly just tuning into the fights through Isha's podcast, so I was like listening to it like I would over the radio during a baseball game. And he just caught him with the left hook and put him out. He had decent technique. It was amazingly, it was in the final seconds of the first round, right before it was going to wrap
literally
up.
4:59 of the last round.
So good for him for pulling a Max Holloway and digging down deep and being fast enough to put him away. That he's got good killer instinct there. And I don't know what to say. Justin Gonzalez was 14-3 going into the fight. Gabriel Braga was 13-1. So he already had more momentum. It just seems that he really outclassed Justin Gaethje Jr. and just put him out with big shots. Looked really good.
Yeah, are you familiar with his story?
What?
Are you familiar with his story at all?
No, give me the origin story.
Oh, I don't either. I just know I believe that somebody close to him died, and so there was questions of whether or not he was going to make his last fight. That's why it had to be rescheduled. And then it was supposed to be him and Pitbull, and then Pitbull said, "Fuck you guys, I'm not fighting my friend who just lost somebody." I mean, I don't want to say, but like I think it was his coach or his dad. I think his dad was his coach. Anyway, somebody very close to him, and then Pitbull said, "Fuck you guys," so they rescheduled it to this card, and that's why he was on the card, and that's why Isha was like, of City Life Project was like saying he was gonna cry after the fight. I was like, what a soy boy, Canadian. But hey, you know what?
Context.
Good win for Braga, and
good
he's
respect
do well.
to Pitbull for refusing to fight his buddy when he was dealing with the grieving process.
He has mad issues with PFL. Understandably. Next fight was a shocker to me. Shamil Musayev fucking knocks out cold Logan Storley.
Incredible stuff.
Shamil, I mean, holy shit, dude. And there was a lot of talk because this guy Shamil came in with some moves, right? Looked kind of like a fire hydrant, and he had some moves. So people were saying he cycled off incorrectly, but
is he his dealer?
Until the results of the drug test come out. Oh yeah,
here comes JL to sing to the masses about his opinions of this fight.
Yes, and I believe JL is a super fan of Logan Storley, which I'm right there with you, man. I am a very high on Logan Storley. I think he's a good fighter. Was an amazing college wrestler. But Shamil, as soon as he landed the first spinning back kick in the first round, I said, "Oh shit, this motherfucker can strike.
Yeah, I told you
and
that we're in the
strike
new
he did.
generation of Dagestani and Russian strikers. They are here and they are here to stay, in my opinion. They have adjusted, they have adapted, and now they're good everywhere. So got to be.
I'm going to
real
address this comment really quick from one JL. No, not every fighter who hasn't popped is clear. I'm of the camp of the thought that George St. Pierre is a drug cheat. Now that's never been proven, so we can still rate him in the top 3 as with John Jones. Even if you go with clean
you're always
fighters,
going to rate John Jones as the GOAT forever
yeah.
and ever for the rest of the
And
time.
some people do their pound for pound with like clean, untainted fighters, and they still have GSP as number 1. So yes, exactly. I think GSP was on drugs because how did you beat every single top fighter of the TRT era
and keep them
and you
down?
were? Well, I'm just saying, how did he beat every top fighter of the TRT era in the UFC and he wasn't on TRT? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
like he was just that good, maybe. But again, he never failed the drug test, so that's why.
And he had a pretty ripped, muscle-bound physique as well.
Totally,
He may have been a
totally.
grappler, but he looked like a Greek god when he stepped in there. So I don't think that was 100% natural.
No, and JL, look, I'm with you, man. That's why I brought it up. All right. So before you get mad at me, that's why I brought it up. I think the guy looked like he was coming off a cycle. I am not a steroid user or like doctor, so I don't know. But again, regardless, the result of the fight until it gets overturned, just as I said, and I understand it pisses you off. I get it, man. But
and unfortunately, JL, I think you're going to be typing cheap tainted steroid cheat for the next 5 fights of Shamil Musayev because he had, I think, beyond just the drugs, he's got natural talent on the feet and
sure. And not only that, like we all know that modern day steroid tests are really just IQ tests. Don't piss hot in that fight.
They killed USADA.
I don't know what drug testing the PFL uses.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So you could, the UFC did, but this is not the UFC. Anyway, Shamil made Logan do the splits at the end of the last round, and it was bad. I mean, he just whooped up Logan Storley, and then a grand total of 27 seconds into the second round, he fucking slept Logan Storley bad, and this is a bad knockout loss for Logan. He's supposed to come back in 3 months for the next card, right?
What?
He's about to come back in 3 months for the next fight, right? Logan as well?
It's part of the tournament system, right?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what it's gonna look like. It's a bad loss for him.
Fight soon again. He looks phenomenal.
I'm talking about Logan.
Oh, ooh.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'd probably give him like 3 or 4. I wouldn't put him in there like Alexander Volkanovski. I don't want to see that guy go on a Volk tear.
We then had Brendan Loughnane fighting Pedro Carvalho.
That was my lock. We got the lock right, baby.
Success. Yeah, and I went safe and I picked a decision. I think I went all decision. No, I think I actually picked a first round knockout. I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, holy shit. Fucking smoked him. It wasn't even a contest. It wasn't even close. Just brutality. Made Pedro look like a clown. And yeah, kind of just seconded everything we said about the fight, And it was an impressive win for Brendan. Though I think his opponent was pretty cannish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, testament to this PFL season matchmaking. He he got a can, and they want Brendan to be in the final. So that's how this shit's made. So our main event was Magomed Umatala versus Andrei Korshkov. Andre looked bad. He got, I wouldn't say he looked terrible, but like Umatala definitely was a better fighter and deserved the win here.
Yeah, he got steamrolled. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Battle of the
Korshkov
Grappling.
hung in the fight, and he kept it in there. But yeah, Umatalov deserved
Yeah.
that win, and
I don't really know
good
what
win.
PFL was expecting to get out of this main event.
Right, and
It's
it was
probably a main event they wanted to get out of the way.
it's kind of a strange booking for me too. But I think Brendan Loughnane probably should have been the main event. One of your former tournament winners. But
Yeah,
that's just me.
big name, and we'll probably try to get a finish or at least put on an exciting fight.
Right.
He's not going to crotch sniff the guy to death.
Right. So
Would have
that's
been
it for the
better.
PFL card wrap up. I thought the fight
decent
card was
decent show, and not better than
Mhm.
PFL 2. I think PFL 2 is going to be the
Sure.
standard until further notice. Had
Sure.
better names,
So,
bigger fights.
I'm gonna go over some of Hank the Tank's locks for the weekend, and he's gonna kind of tell you guys what he had, where he may have blundered, where he may have been correct, and been our
where I may
shining
have
grace.
blundered once, where I singularly blundered.
That's why I said may have.
I'm happy to
And
say.
I gotta address my man Jay Sharp really quick. We're gonna get to that right after these. We break down the regional MMA picks that my man Hank had. So just stay tuned, brother.
All right. So the first lock I had for the weekend happened to be taking place right when we started streaming. Actually, it might have been before we even started streaming. It was my boy, no longer my boy. Now he doesn't come over for family dinners. What the hell's his name? I'm glad I'm forgetting his name slowly but surely. Old Evgeny Erikin.
Trauma will do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to block him out. He's in my subconscious, like In and Out with the clown. Does somebody have a birthday? Ooh, get out of there, Erikin. It was old Evgeny Erikin, who was coming off a nice winning record, beating guys who had plenty of fights, who were veterans. He looked like he was on a roll, and they were clearly trying to feed a Brazilian guy to him who had to fly all the way over to Russia.
This was an octagon, by the way.
Yeah. 15-8 record, and he just did not look good in his last couple fights and was losing to people by decision. I mean, there were some fights where he was coming back, but I don't think anybody really expected him to knock out Erikin, who was just on a roll, looking great on the feet, looking great on the ground, and he got his ass kicked and sent to the Shadow Realm by Cal Bittencourt while we were streaming. And my friend, who is now the Invisible Man, rather than the Idaho Skatesman, highlighted a message from good old City Life, good old Isha, who said that he was absolutely flatlined and destroyed in every conceivable way, did not put in any offense, and as Dana would put it, I want him to retire. I want him to retire. He got retired in this fight in brutal fashion, and we got to react to it live, which was a lot of fun.
We're planning on coming out with a video on that.
Video of that, by the way,
yes,
because it's in Skate Tank history now. My first ever lock was
pretty funny.
One to lose, so it was funny. It was very funny in the moment. But sorry, guys, you will not be disappointed that was the one pick I had for the weekend that lost. Every other pick I had won in semi-impressive to impressive fashion. So let's get on to the ones who won. PFL obviously was Brendan Laughlin, who won by first round KO. And I told everybody, if you want to be smart and cheeky about it, have him by first round knockout. And what do you know? He gets it done by first round knockout against an absolute can, which is the right call to make. And then Cage Warriors, I believe my guy was good old Sean Clancy Jr. Let's see. I need to see if he is a second or a third. I don't want to get this now. No, Sean Clancy Jr., KO from ground and pound, great submission expert. He can knock people out, and he can take him down to the mat and sub him. And so I thought this kid has a lot of range. He's going against a guy who's literally a 50-50 record. Again, sending a guy from Brazil all the way to the UK to get finished. And unlike Erikin, that's exactly what happened. And the kid showed great ability in taking the other guy down, did it naturally, and then knocked him out via ground and pound, like you want a good old carpetbagger to do. So I'm proud of my boy, and he also looked great with those two belts on his shoulder in the Topology profile pick. So I put my money on him, and it paid off. Metaphorically, I'm still a cheapskate, Scrooge McDuck. And then we had Octagon 56. This one was way closer to being a disaster. Good old George Staines who I will never pick again, by the way. He was up against Thomas Siganik, who was a 1-1 record. I mean, this guy, George Staines, was taking out 9-0 guys on the regional scene, taking them to unanimous decisions or taking them out by late round submissions. And so I thought, oh, this kid probably has great cardio. He's submitting people in round 5, so he shouldn't crumble that easily. And then what do you know? As soon as he spends enough time on the ground being unable to get a guy's back and get the backpack, no, he didn't get the backpack going into the 3rd round. And eventually, Siganik was just pulling his keister back up to box, and Staines was not ready to box. I mean, he was hitting him with a few lefts, a few rights, but eventually he was getting hit to the body, hit to the head, and getting put on wobbly legs by Siganik. And by the 3rd minute of the 3rd round, he was in deep trouble and just running around like Izzy Adesanya trying to outpoint a guy to a decision, and almost got Neil Magnied by Siganik. And I was not very proud of my pick during those moments, but Staines was dominant enough on the ground to take it to a decision, especially by the end. He had already stolen the first 2 rounds, even though he didn't do anything on the back. He basically pulled the Bryce Mitchell on Dan Ige and then just had to survive. And lucky enough for me, he did. But that's all down to RNG, folks. I got this pick completely wrong by the 3rd round, and I'll admit it. But he still found a way to win. So, hey, that's great for me.
That brings us to 2-1 on Hank the Tank locks. So
yeah,
which ain't bad. Look out for those.
And then if we bring up the boxing card, my record's much better than that.
Yeah, so we're gonna get right into that. The first fight we're gonna go over is Sergey Derevyanchenko, pulling off the win. Why don't you go ahead and break that down for us? I did not watch this fight.
Okay, I'll break it down. So it sort of went how I thought it would, except without the finish. I expected Sergey to be able to knock him out by round 5. Unfortunately, his last like 4 or 5 fights, Sergey, were against high-level guys, huge prospects who are going to be future, title contenders. And so I'd see him get knocked out, or I'd see him go to a decision. And so I wouldn't know if he'd be able to find a finish in this one, really, because it'd been so long since he'd been against a guy where a finish would be possible, other than like a 12-round war. But I assumed he was able to wobble Jaime Munguia. And so I was like, if he's able to wobble freaking Jaime, he should be able to wobble Vaughn Alexander, was my line of thought. But unfortunately, it just seemed like Vaughn Alexander is a boxer whose sole mission is just not to get hit. He does not want to throw any offense that lands. He does not want to knock you out. He just wants to survive so he can get an easy paycheck. And going up to the professional ranks, that's exactly what he tried to do. Tried to make himself a statue. Didn't let him get any room for body shots or for head shots. He had a really good guard. I'll give him that. But Vaughn is not a guy who's hungry or trying to get a belt. So he basically stood in place with his arms either down here or up here, just waiting for the shot to come. And Sergey, I will give him credit by I think it was, how many rounds was this? I think by the 8th round, he was able to actually knock him down with the body shot, which I called. I called that he would have good body punches because that's what usually puts his opponents on skates. And that's exactly what he did. Vaughn went down, almost got counted out, but he survived. And then he basically took him to a unanimous decision. And so whatever shots were landing, they were Sergey's. Whatever shots had meaning or power or impact, they were Sergey's. And so I'd say that I wouldn't say it was impressive, but I say that he got the job done that he needed to get done. And I think a lot of high-level opponents would have a tough time putting Vaughn Alexander away anyway, because he's just too tough and he's too durable and he's too good at defense. So as long as you win against him, that's a good thing. I doubt that he'll get another money fight. I doubt that he'll get another big-name opponent after this because he did not put him away. A can on the amateur scene, which is not a good look. But who knows, if he beats a couple more cans and he beats them by KO, he might be allowed to face another guy at maybe 168, 160 if he can cut the weight down. So hopefully he does. I think this was a nice bounce back win for him, which I called, and hopefully they give him a chance in the future against somebody.
Yeah, and 160 is a pretty light division as of right now in boxing. So Good win for Derevyanchenko. Also, this was on the main event of the prelims, which was free on YouTube. So a lot of people, there were some good eyes on this one. Good for Mr. Derevyanchenko. Next fight.
He just lost to so many guys, but good for him.
All the big name guys, yeah. Charles Conwell versus Galen Moore.
They basically had him take the Tai Tuivasa route, which did not end well.
Yeah, so we had Charles Conwell defeating Galen Moore KO into the sixth round by unanswered punches. Charles Conwell, a fighter, and I'll just say this was probably for the main card. This was probably the best fight of the undercard of the main card. Because the rest of these fights, man, I'll just tell you, they were pretty bad.
They were
outside of Beck, which we'll get into.
Holy.
But yeah, Charles Conwell, man, he just whooped up on poor Galen Moore pretty much the entire fight. And I thought the fight should have been stopped earlier.
Yeah.
And they ended up finally mercifully stopping it in the sixth round, very, very quickly into it, which I think they should have called it earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, good win for Charles Conwell on a big stage. I'm sure he'll get another good fight coming up. He's a young cat, 10, and now he moves to 19-0. So yeah, interested to see what he does moving forward. The man from Detroit
gets it done. You know what I found interesting? A highlight of the fight was between the rounds when they showed the sticker on his tights from the opponent that he accidentally killed in the ring. And I'm glad that he it sort of reminds me of my dad, because there was this guy who he knew who was a really good friend, also a coach, sort of like him for his high school, and he put a sticker with a motto from the guy on the back of his truck in honor of him, because he just wanted to keep his memory around, and he went too soon. So he just put that that's on his vehicle probably until the day that he dies, out of respect for his good friend. And I felt the same energy from Conwell in wanting to remember someone that he shared the ring with. And obviously he didn't intend for his opponent to be killed in the ring. But, there are a lot of guys. I mean, you look at Travis Scott with Astro World, and he's probably never going to remember those people who he accidentally killed in the Astro World concert again. It'll probably just be a distant memory as he continues to rise to the top. But for Charles Conwell, he's going to remember that opponent he shared the canvas with and retain his memory like a class act. So that shows who he is at heart. So good for Charles. And I'm glad that that loss didn't mess up his mentality in boxing. It's sort of like Uriah Hall in the UFC when he did that big spin kick on that guy during the Ultimate Fighter. And then it took him 5 minutes for him to recover and get air. And after that, Uriah never really had the same aggression again. I'm glad that's not the case here, and that he can, grieve and then move on and live his life and continue to do what he loves.
Yeah, this is a case with many a fighter. If you get the chance, Hank, you should check out Fight of Their Lives. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Oh, Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn and G-Man, Gerald McClellan. I know my man Jay Sharp will know this one.
Right.
And an opponent he fought, and probably his biggest fight ever, big fight for the UK, was Chris Eubank Sr. And both of those men damn near killed a guy in the ring. And it's very interesting to hear their stories behind kind of their recovery to that. And not the same for Nigel, but Eubank definitely was never the same fighter after that. I know Sugar Ray Robinson actually had a dream the night before he fought a guy that he killed him, and he begged the commission to not have the fight. And they said, no, we're going to continue the fight. And he ended up killing the guy. So yeah, this is a thing that happened. I mean, Subriel Matias, same thing. And we never want to glorify that, but so.
And boxing is a more brutal sport. Let's be honest. People get knocked down and they get hit with a shot that would otherwise flatline them in UFC, and he'd be out. And then you got to get right back up. And if you find a way to get right back up after 9 seconds, guess what you're taking? Another left hook or another right hand to the head, and down you go. Just twice the concussions, twice the brain damage. It's potentially unlimited, the amount of brain damage that you can sustain.
Sure.
And eventually, if someone hits you with the right shot, you're going down and you're never going back up. So it's a brutal
from
sport.
That, we move on to David Jimenez versus John Ramirez. My man Hank did a lot of research for this card, and he picked this fight perfectly.
Until I didn't.
So I'm going to let him go ahead and just give his analysis on this one.
I called the fight in terms of what I found to be David Jimenez's good traits, in that Jimenez was durable, tough. He was from Latin America, and he had a big frame. So if you hit him, he's not going down. He's going to be resilient, and he's going to get right back up. He's going to keep hitting you with shots. I was right in saying that Jimenez never lets go on the pressure, and he always puts in rapid pitter-patter shots. What I questioned was whether he was able to sustain that and then have enough power to really actually hurt his opponent with those shots. Because in his last fight, he was going around the guard, but he was hitting guys in the side of the body or the side of the head and was not doing anything of particular impact. And so I thought that Scrappy Ramirez was actually going to be Scrappy Ramirez and try to scrap with him and find a way to get the body shots and the head shots and persevere enough through 12 rounds to pick up a decision win at most, or at least. But unfortunately, it seems like Jimenez was just more of a pro and a veteran when it comes to the dirty boxing. He was the actual scrappy one in the fight, because he was going, whenever John Ramirez landed a shot, he paid for it, because Jimenez would get really up close and just start going to the body, going to the head, pushing up against the ropes, and just treating him like Beck the bully. And he bullied him. And there was just no point where Ramirez could get off any body shots, any shots to the head. Exactly, Jay Sharp. I remember I said in the Rush Hour podcast live chat that Scrappy never fails to disappoint. And it was absolutely true here. I said that Ramirez went to a very close decision with Fernando Diaz, I believe his name was, and a lot of people thought that Diaz won that fight. I thought that Ramirez's last fight would be more determining of his fight here, but it ended up being the Diaz fight that was more indicative of how he would fight against someone who was tough from Latin America and who never goes down and constantly is peppering you with shots. So basically, Jimenez was Diaz 2.0, and he never allowed Ramirez any room to breathe or get in any shots from a distance. He would press him up and he would rope the dope.
I thought the size of Jimenez gave a lot of problems to John too.
Absolutely. He'd bully him. He'd push him. He would be standing tall over him and going to the body. And if Ramirez got off a shot, it was a lucky one, because it was just short punches. That's all he allowed Scrappy to get off. And I'm actually really glad that Ariel interviewed him, just so that Ariel can look stupid afterwards. I'm that petty. So
yeah, I can't stand
Ariel. See that Ariel had a bad night tonight, as he always does. So take that L, Ariel. Anyway, Scrappy Ramirez. They really thought they were setting this kid up for easy interim greatness, and now he got fraud checked completely.
Yeah, and Jimenez wins
your local pay-per-view prelims.
Yes, and Jimenez wins the interim WBA super flyweight title.
And I know that he based his Scrappy name off of the little bitch from Scooby-Doo. Put him up. Like, let's go, Scrappy. You can't box, old pal. You're useless.
Yeah. Certainly in the live action Scooby-Doo movie, Scrappy got his, man, and I like Scrappy Doo. I'm a Scrappy,
and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that meddling Jimenez and old Eddie Hearn too.
100%. So our next fight was Beck the Bully versus Dibombe. This was a decent.
Perfectly. You want to say this was me calling this fight perfectly? This was the one I called perfectly. Give me your thoughts first.
I thought this was a decent fight. Both men were going for it. Both men. Beck really took over the fight, and then he ended up getting cut about the fourth-ish round or something, and then it was all bloody from there. It was nice. My sister had just came over. She wanted to watch the Ryan Garcia fight, so she came over, and in the middle of that, she goes, "Ugh,
And
that
then she
looks
left.
gross." No, she was like, "Ugh, this is bad. These are bad cuts." And then, I was kind of fucking off, doing some other shit, making some food or something. I think I just got some DoorDash, and then I noticed they had they said it was a technical decision. So, they called the fight. They went to the cards, and Beck
Thank
wins
God.
a technical decision because those cuts were pretty bad. So.
Yeah, I did not want them to steal that one away from me. I was begging for God to intervene and make them call the fight on the other guy, and not my boy Bekdamir. So they treated it like a Chris Weidman situation, and they went to the scorecards instead of just judging the cuts by themselves, which I think was the right decision, because otherwise you're just taking away an easy dominant victory from Bekdamir. Because let's not forget, if we look back at the footage, he got that cut off of a headbutt. Old Bekdamir. The guy's only main weapon that he used to take out Bekdamir was his head. So that's what almost cost him the fight. Other than that, Bekdamir was just beating him up, finding his range, making sure he didn't get hit. The only times he was ever hit was when they were throwing back and forth and engaging in the pocket. Otherwise, Bekdamir was coming in from range, bam, left hand, boom, shot to the body, combo. And he was just putting the work on Pierre. And I said that if Pierre can't get super close to Bekdamir and throw like they're in a phone booth, then Bekdamir was just going to pick him apart at range. And in my opinion, that's exactly what he did. If anyone was getting off the bigger shots and the bigger combos, it was Bekdamir. He was pushing up against the corner and just laying waste to him. And I think he looked super impressive, super deserving of the WBA Intercontinental Super Middleweight title with that performance. You're not a fan of the title?
Intercontinental titles are trinket belts.
Yeah, fool's gold.
But it guarantees you get a bigger fight in your next one. So,
well, I hope so, because this kid puts on really good fights, and he has really good technical performances. I don't know if there was a round that Debombe won against Bekdamir. He looked dominant in there, and he looked appealing in terms of how he was punching. He was just finding his shots and making him pay, and Pierre was a bloody mess from a punch and from combos. And so I'm glad that I called it. I'm glad that Bekdamir bullied him like his name suggested, and they made the right decision and went to a decision instead of just flipping the coin and see whose cut is worse.
Our next fight, Arnold Barboza Jr. wins a complete robbery against Sean McComb, who just outboxed him the entire match. Barboza did not look good at all in this fight. I don't know how he wins a split decision.
Ridiculous.
Win. Total robbery. Unlike Lomachenko versus Devin Haney, this was a complete and utter blatant robbery.
Yeah, really
disgraceful.
Loma's not even in this one's league. No,
not at all.
There's a tier list for these things, and Loma versus Haney is an F tier. You guys, it's not even on the list. It's like it's below the screen. You guys. So
yeah, now, not even to mention the gift decisions that Loma's gotten. It's not even that doesn't even matter.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, the blatant robbery, man, and I guess they should give him a rematch.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's how you can probably get any attention for that fight.
Hopefully not on a Golden Boy card.
Yeah, apparently it was complete garbage.
Sure. So
Idaho said that he wanted to bleach his eyeballs out after watching that thing.
I think I did. I think I said the fight gave me cancer. It killed OJ. It started World War III, which hasn't even started yet, or maybe it has. I don't know. Yeah. I said a lot of outlandish. Things.
All of them were right.
Yeah. And really, I was just waiting for the circus to happen. So let's get right into it. Ryan Garcia defeats Devin Haney via majority decision. One judge scored it a draw. The other two,
and Eddie Hearn was like, pss, 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 pss. I'll pay you big time.
The other two scored it for Ryan. One was like was it like 113 or something, and then the other scored at 115, which I
114.
thought was a little wide
Yeah,
in Ryan's favor, but
yeah.
ultimately
It's
Ryan
close.
gets the job done. Um, first round, and I did say this before the fight happened on this very podcast that I just through everything that happened, I just felt like Ryan could pull it off. Though I did go with Devin Haney to win by decision.
I did too.
And yeah, holy shit, he hurt Devin very early with a
Yeah.
left hook,
Hey,
and
I didn't know that Ryan Garcia was the Alex Pereira of super lightweight boxing, because that man's left hook is nasty, and if he finds it, like, you're on wobbly legs no matter who you are. And
one
apparently
and
Haney has a glass chin too.
and a big reason why he was able to be so successful with the left hook is Devin Haney's jab has a fundamental flaw. He throws it very long, and
Yeah,
his hands here. He throws it very long,
yeah.
and
Leaves
his
his
hand
chin wide
stays here.
open.
Right. So when and he does have great reflexes, and um, he's able to avoid that in his other fights. He was able to avoid
Yeah.
that very shot in the Jorge Linares fight. Jorge did end up hurting Devin Haney, but it was not to this point and this
To
early
this
in the fight.
extent.
Yeah. And so that was just the first round. And then I thought Devin locked up the next couple rounds pretty
Second, third,
handily.
fourth.
And then the disaster started.
Yes.
Devin
Yeah.
lived out a nightmare in that ring against Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And though everybody was complaining constantly about the clinching of Devin Haney, be realistic. That's what kept Devin in the fight. Was the
It is.
clinching. That was the only
But
way he was still in the fight.
it's
Was
true.
holding
Yes.
on for dear life.
And I do think, upon looking back at the footage and hearing what other commentators had to say, the second time that he went to his knees was not a knockdown, but the third time he did was a
Yeah,
knockdown.
I totally believe that there should have been more knockdowns called. There was not. And then it's about this time that the point got taken from Ryan for hitting off the clinch, which he had done a few times. Though I thought he should have gotten a warning. I
Yeah,
do
it's a little
personally
ridiculous,
believe that the
because
referee is
Devin Haney refused to let go with that one as well.
sure,
He had him in that clinch for a very, very, very long time, hugging him.
sure, and I do think that the referee is well within his right to take a point. Though I do also believe he's quick on the trigger.
Speaking of the
Ultimately,
refs,
ultimately, it didn't matter. Harvey Dock was the ref who
fucking Harvey.
our brother Jay Smooth warned us that he was an abysmal ref.
And it showed. It showed. This was the performance of his life, of his career, and it was a bad one. So I think this is going to define his reffing career for the next couple of years. And when people
Yes.
see his name, they're going to think of like Mario Yamazaki or Mark Goddard in the same.
Yeah, and so around this time, Ryan really, I was questioning whether or not he would be able to get the job done still, because it seemed like Ryan was only explosive and a big threat in the early, like first 30 minutes to the first minute of the rounds.
Yeah.
That did not hold true in the later rounds, as Jay Sharp said. Garcia sort of carried Devin Haney in the later rounds, and that's pretty much true.
I'm glad that Ryan Garcia listened to the crowd in moments, because when they were chanting Ryan, Ryan, and actually making noise, he actually stopped being a little bit of a scaredy cat and actually started throwing and being aggressive with the punches.
So yeah, he then just takes over the fight, and there was one knockdown that was so vicious. I did not know how Devin Haney got up from that.
Yeah, if you still it, if you like slow it down to the moment the punch lands, his eyes roll back.
Yes,
Like, he looks like a zombie.
Mm-hmm. And everybody hates Devin Haney. I personally liked Devin Haney. I like all of Bill's antics. Fan of Devin Haney.
Yeah, I don't hate him as a person.
And I think that I think you got to give credit to him for being tough, but I also think his toughness was his downfall, though he was clinching quite a bit. If you notice,
I think the clinching was his downfall in moments.
if
Even
you
though it kept him
notice,
around, there were times where he should have been throwing punches to the body and trying to give respect back to Garcia to make him
which
feel
he
like
never did. He never
did.
I think he hurt Ryan, or I think he landed one big punch on Ryan.
He tagged him in round 2, and then
yes.
Ryan was just like, "Nah, I eat that shit."
Yep. And
I'm strong.
I think that Ryan, Devin never switching up the game plan, and it seemed like he really wanted to knock out Ryan. Like in spots, because I'm not being delusional. I know he clinched a lot, but I think he just got emotional, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
He let the.
And another thing is that even though I sort of dislike Ryan Garcia's guard, sort of trying to do the like Kevin Holland kind of, I'm turning my shoulder to you and
Philly show,
it
a bad Philly show.
It absolutely worked against Devin Haney's style, because he wanted to hit him
Devin
with
didn't have an answer for it.
I
was cringing live. I was cringing on that. I was like, "What the fuck is Ryan doing?" But yeah, as you alluded to, Devin didn't have an answer for it. So hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You decide. I mean, that's how you can describe Ryan Garcia as a person and a boxer in basically every sense of the word. Is he a completely delusional idiot, or is he a secret genius along the levels of the imitation game? We learned.
Yeah, I'm going the more idiot savant route.
Yes, he's a savant. Because the guard worked. He just had him punching a little bit to the side, trying to punch him behind the guard, and he never was able to get a big shot off of Ryan Garcia. And once he started to slow down and started to be more lax with his hands, that's when Ryan Garcia caught him. He was actually perfect with his timing in this fight. He wore him out, and then like Muhammad Ali, and then caught Foreman with the big shots.
Like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, he's the Muhammad Ali of boxing.
I think that's just an outlandish comparison. True
God, which was Jesus Christ himself, and God. Christianity has prevailed over. Islam.
No, that's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, not really.
You yourself banned a guy earlier for bringing up religion.
That's true.
And then now you're going to bring that up is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, Ryan looked great. Wow. Just wow. I mean, nobody expected this. Obviously there's the Ryan Garcia super fans and 14-year-old girls that were telling us all 2 months long that this would happen. But and a lot of people were hip to, Devin, I think a lot of people
underrated Ryan Garcia highly to the point where they were saying they shouldn't even let him in the ring. My God, he's so mentally inept. It would be
I was one of those people. I was one of those people saying that the fight shouldn't happen just because of Ryan's antics. It was very concerning because in the build up to the fight, the main thing that got people talking was he said that he had been tied up, taken to the woods, and forced to watch some things that he said he was going to later show proof of, which he never did. And then his proof was him reading off of a piece of paper statistics of human trafficking. So that's not proof of like some outlandish shit happening to you.
That's like Trump saying that the hurricane wouldn't hit Louisiana and Mississippi in 2017, and then putting up like a whiteboard and then literally just drawing an arrow showing it going further northward, and that's his proof, is that Trump's source was, trust me, bro, I made it up, and then just have people note the northward. That's the equivalent. And,
so I was one of those people. I was one of those people saying, the mental state of Ryan,
it is bad.
Didn't equate to someone who should be boxing. Now, whether or not he was trolling us, which I guess he was.
I think it was partly trolling. Partly, I think.
I still personally believe that Ryan has substance abuse issues and mental health problems.
Yeah.
But again, this is fighting. Though it is boxing and MMA, kickboxing, whatever, this is fighting. And look at a guy like Deontay Wilder, who I know everybody hates, who I'm still a fan of, and I'm going to ride with Wilder till the wheels fall off. Here's a guy who had just was a killer, and then he.
Could you highlight Jay Sharp's comment? I think he sums it up pretty well. It's the last one. Yeah. I think he caught on to it real quick, and especially when he had that crown on his head on the horse riding through New York City. You got to think part of that is definitely theatrics.
Well, sure. And what I was gonna say is, once Wilder got rich and went on some spiritual journeys, I believe that's part of what lent him to lose his killer instinct. So you need a little bit of crazy. You need a little bit of insaneness to get in the ring.
Yeah.
And delusion as well.
Yeah, Mike Tyson and Prince Nassim showed that. Even Muhammad Ali showed it in places.
Sure. And there was a so amazing win for Ryan. Do I think he is the savior of boxing? No, I do not. There's plenty of good boxers that don't pull weird shit like this.
And
maybe they should start doing it.
Be gone for any boxer's gimmick, because
Sure.
honestly, they're less charismatic than the MMA stars, even the crazy ones. So I don't like their press conference format either. You're not really going to be buying more pay-per-views when it's just two guys and a table instead of a bunch of guys going back and forth. Oh my God, chaotic energy. I don't know what's going to happen. There is not that energy during boxing. Ryan comes close, especially when it's just him on the mic in the center, and he's a cult of personality kind of figure. He could draw some people in, but we got to also admit that Ryan's really fucking awkward on the mic. And is like the equivalent of Sugar Sean O'Malley in moments where you don't know what the fuck he's saying sometimes, and he's a mumble mouth and he bumbles over his words. Like his
mispronounces shit all the time. Words. Yeah. So in terms of the aftermath of this fight, I personally believe that they should run it back because Devin Haney retains. Came out after the fight that he retains the WBC junior welterweight or super lightweight belt, whatever you want to call it. I think. In the fight they'll say it's the super. In everything else they'll call it the junior. They just don't want to use junior in promotions. I
think Eddie Hearn said that the belt was vacant in an interview afterwards.
Yeah, but ultimately it's not up to a promoter. It's up to the sanctioning bodies, and that's why the Ali Act was made up. So Mauricio Suleiman has stated that Haney retains the belt, so that's why I believe there should be a rematch now. Devin Haney,
think it'd make a bunch of pay-per-view too. I think Devin Haney at least double what it did before.
He was a class act in defeat. He said that Ryan is a true champ and he wants to run it back. Salute to him for that.
Did you see Ryan Garcia's father absolutely cuss out Eddie Hearn afterwards?
I did not.
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, what do you got to say now? Hey, fuck you, man. Yeah, fuck you. Oh, yeah, you didn't believe in him before. You're going to believe in Ryan? Who are you going to put him against next, huh? You going to send him down a weight class? You make him do the hydration test? And Eddie Hearn was like, yeah, fuck you. Yeah. Hey, fuck you, man. You want to say
I mean, ultimately, when you sign a contract and agree to terms, that's on you. So Ryan did not in this case. We can
see where Garcia got the genetics from. He got the personality.
Sure. In this case, Ryan did not, which is why he does not win the belt. But lineal WBC super lightweight champion, sure.
Yeah,
that's why I personally believe that there'd be a rematch.
If they get him Ian Gary's vegetarian trainer, I'm sure that Ryan Garcia is going to make the weight.
As long as he doesn't get cucked.
Yeah, if Layla lets him off the leash, then
sure,
you could see him make it. Or Costa.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see Ryan and I mean, he could take any fight he wants at this point.
Yeah, they could give him
Matias, I think is a bad fight. Rolly would be. I would think that would be a terrible matchup because he just got knocked out. But I think Pitbull Cruz is more of a better fight if he wants to drop back to 140. But
Sarp said
135.
Ryan Ennis boots Ryan Ennis.
Yeah, I don't like that fight because Ryan's never fought at 147, but he did allude that he would like to go up to 147, and I think that's a perfectly fine fight for Boots. But also Boots is more interested in getting belts, so I don't think he would take that fight. I think he wants to become a champion at 147, which Terrence Crawford is just stalling the division out. He's taking a fight
I
against
think
a
both guys
can
would
up
like
at
the rematch.
154. What's
Yeah.
that?
I think both guys would like the rematch, Haney and Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really, at this point, we can't really trust anything Ryan Garcia says.
No.
He did say that he cannot make 140. Again, we can't trust anything the guy says. So who fucking knows? Ultimately, it's up to the people, the terrible people around him. Oscar, the people who make the fights. So
the
I'm sure.
original Coke junkie, as
Sure.
Dana would say.
So, like, again, they can make up anything they want. They can strip Terrence of the titles. Boots versus they can make Boots versus Ryan for a vacant title. Whatever they want to do. I think. But the problem is now all the Devin Haney haters and the Ryan Garcia super fans are gonna just kill Devin for the rest of his career.
Yeah,
and
that was ultimately an L for him, regardless of whether he lost that belt.
And in my personal opinion, this fight didn't really do much for either guy. Ryan wins the fight, and he, looks great, but doesn't have a belt. And honestly, really, like, as much as being a star is important in the sport, belts are really what gets you the power and the leverage.
Yeah, credibility and prestige. Hey, you can wait out 2 years without fighting if you got a belt.
Mm-hmm. Canelo Alvarez, can do whatever he wants, and
fight.
That's because he's Canelo. It's because he's fucking Canelo, man. He can do whatever he wants. So, right. Yeah, I personally would like to see a rematch. I think that now, though I do really like Subriel Matias, he's been one of my favorite boxers for a minute now. I don't think Ryan gets a fight with him, and also I think Teofimo Lopez might be the best guy at 140 now.
Hey, he might win it again. He might unify the belts. He didn't look good in his last fight. It was a tough
Teofimo.
Opponent. Yeah, Teofimo. He won his last fight via split decision, and
against Jermaine Ortiz.
A lot of people said that it was a draw at most and a loss for him.
Yeah, I scored the fight for Jermaine, but Teo ended up winning. The problem with that fight was Jermaine did a lot of running, and again, we can have a debate over, because some people run and they call it good boxing. Some people run and they call it running.
Israel Adesanya and Chelsea Chandler.
Sure, and in my opinion, it was a little bit of both. Though Jermaine could have been more offensive against Teo, he didn't. He decided not to. So yeah, again, I think Teo, and we can say Subriel's the best guy at 140, but the problem is he takes an unsustainable amount of punishment for a boxing career at the end of the day. So that's the problem with a guy like Subriel. Though I think he could beat all those guys in some slugger matches. I think that Teofimo versus Ryan is a more interesting fight promotionally, and I think Teo has more
two wild fire.
Yes, and circus acts.
Hey, boxing is circus already, regardless if it's entertaining. Might as well be entertaining.
Oddly enough, Teo walked out in a circus.
Yes, and the Greatest Showman garb aesthetic.
Yeah, what a weird thing.
Fucking triple C level.
Yeah, totally. But I still think Teo, probably, for my money, is probably the best guy at 140 at this point.
Yeah, and he's the most promotable too.
Yeah, fastest guy too, I would say. Now,
hopefully they give him a good style of matchup next time.
Yeah, I think boxing is just disgusting, and that's why I credit Devin Haney for taking this fight. Though
I don't think it's been the same since the 90s.
Right, but I hey, look, credit to Ryan for taking this fight. Credit to Devin for making this fight happen. He was the one putting the belt on the line until Ryan missed weight. So,
we know that he can go in the ring regardless of what mental state he's in.
Sure.
I think if they have the rematch, Garcia might actually put Haney out for good. I think he gets the KO. And if they get a better fucking ref for their fight, I know that he'd give Haney a faster count if Garcia knocked him down. So if they get an official who can actually call it down the line and not have Eddie Hearn's money in his pocket, and they can teach Garcia to be a tiny bit more aggressive, I think he treats him like Topuria did Volk, and eventually finds the left hand. And I think he sits him down more, to be honest, with
Shout out
better
to
trainer,
Isha.
better staff, people to run back the footage and examine the fight and tell Garcia what to do. I think Garcia might be in a better mental or physical state now that he knows that he can actually win and he doesn't have to treat it like a clown show.
Right.
So I think he beats him in an even more dominant fashion if he makes weight. I think that this is a case of John Jones where his biggest opponent is himself. Can he get over himself? Can he stop making hour-long podcasts about not raping a girl and suing her and saying that she needs to get on cocaine? I'm just telling you how it is. This is what he said. If he can stop making hour-long podcasts about being a complete degenerate and trying to say satanic hymns and writing.
Good thing we're not monetized because we probably
on a
would
black
get
background. We weren't even monetized in the first place.
Yeah, so
yeah. Thank God I said that early and not later. So
right.
As long as he's just not going on a rampage on Twitter and can actually calm his ass down, I think he'll beat him in an even more dominant fashion. So let's go schizo Ryan Garcia fans.
I love this. The personality disorder fight. Dude, Mauricio Solomon, he might make that for the BPD belt. You know, who knows? But I personally believe that because I am high on Devin Haney still. I personally believe that he could make adjustments and maybe make it a closer fight next time. But ultimately, I think Ryan just might have his number, man. And I think Ryan kind of knew something we didn't going into the fight. And also, I think that the promotion got to Devin, and he really just lost focus. And Ryan was the more laser focused one and the bigger man in the ring that night.
And that won't change when the rematch comes along.
So yeah, I'd be interested to see the rematch. I don't think it would be a total wash, but yeah. And so that's kind of all my thoughts on the main event.
And remember that it would be an even wider margin of majority decision if the ref didn't take a point.
100%.
Yeah, I think he'll just look good, man. I think he'll learn his lesson, and it'll have some better trainers or some better coaches to give him proper technique now that he's technically the champion of the world in the people's eyes. I think.
I don't know if you know anything about his coach currently. Do you?
I don't know. I just hope that they find a way to make him an even better Ryan Garcia than
his coach is Derek James, and this is his first fight with Derek James.
Oh, Derek James keep him around.
Derek James brought Earl Spence to the 3 world titles he got at 147. He's a coach of Frank Martin, who has an upcoming fight with Gervonta Davis. So I think
smart shark.
I think this is a good match for him, and he kept him very disciplined in the fight in between the rounds. He was really grilling Ryan about some things. So
and as long as he doesn't allow Haney to touch him and keeps that guard and make sure that he doesn't get any clean shots on him, I see him eventually catching him again. And maybe his chin goes too.
Sure.
Who knows? He got dropped a lot in this fight. A lot.
What's funny to me is I predict that if Devin does not fight Ryan next, people will call him scared. If he does fight Ryan next, people will say he's going to die. So what is it that you want from him?
He's between a rock and a hard place. He's in a hangman's gambit.
Sure, and I think he should do the rematch if ultimately they can't come to terms. That's on them. The fighters, Devin and Ryan.
I don't think Ryan knows how to read, so that might be a problem.
That's pretty much all my thoughts on the fight. Do you have anything else to say?
I will say that I'm happy that we got our Ngannou Fury moment early in the year for boxing and got a huge upset. And I think in terms of like, oh my God, I can't believe he cracked him early. And he's down. Except he dominated him for the rest of the fight, which is honestly even better. And I don't know if, like you said, this is going to single-handedly save boxing, but I think it's definitely going to up the pay-per-view buys for the rematch. It'll 100%. Actually get more people in the seats. And honestly, if I were, Golden Boy Promotions or I were other boxing promotions involved with Garcia, I'd have him be promoting and hyping up other fights too. and saying this is
Smart
Ryan
idea.
Garcia, and I'm stronger, man. I'm making this sport bigger. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And you're watching Top Rank Boxing. Ooh, ooh,
It's a
ooh.
great idea, man.
Yeah.
We need
Just
to
make him
call
the
up
face. Make him the
Oscar and
face of boxing for the next 4 months and see
we need
what
to
happens.
call him up and tell him that. Yeah, the fight was not a sellout. Though they did promote it as such. There was visibly empty seats in the house, and
Which was sad to see,
right,
but not unexpected.
sure. But also, yeah, I think you're right in the sense that this makes Ryan a bigger draw. Devin nor Ryan was a big draw. Tank was the big draw in the um Ryan Garcia match, and I think Loma was the biggest draw that Devin has fought up to this point. So
he's sort of like a Sugar Sean O'Malley, where they put him in the big fights and the big opponents in order to make it seem like he's the big star.
and it's also a testament to how social media doesn't translate to actual buys of seats and pay-per-views.
No. It's all just empty hype, and the people who like that stuff are going to be the ones watching Mets streams.
Even so, like kids that I know, kids around my age, I'll be 26 here in 9 days.
Wow, congratulations.
Kids my age, they know Sean. They know who Sean O'Malley is. But that doesn't mean they're buying pay-per-views or going to fights. So
I think like a guy that I was watching said, it's going to be people in the 40, 50 or 60 range that you're going to want to bring in. The ones who are actually willing to, who have a steady income and will actually be willing to pay for a boxing pay-per-view, will have the money to afford it. And
so with that being said, we're going to get down to the smoke between Hank and I. A fight that Devin Haney won, though some people don't agree, and I see it
technically.
And look, I'm the odd man out here. I'll admit, I'm the odd man out. Everybody says that Devin got robbed against Loma, so I'm interested to hear. We're going to get down to this debate here. I'm interested to hear Tank's thoughts on the fight between Devin Haney and Lomachenko, and yeah, let's just get down to it because I'm the odd man out here. I thought Devin won the match. I actually scored it live.
You're my legal
just as the judges did. Actually, I scored it 7-5. The judges had it 8-4. So,
which is a little more ridiculous in my opinion.
Sure, interested to hear Tank's thoughts on the fight.
I think there are a lot of different rules in boxing that determine the result. Sometimes it's not just the rounds. Sometimes it depends on aggression. And I think beyond just the rounds, Loma was putting on the pressure more, and he was finding counter shots to Haney's stuff. And there would be eventually moments where he was catching him with 1-2s, 1, 2, 3, 4, and getting really good combos on him and pushing him up against the ropes. And I'm not going to say I know what every single scorecard is for every single round. I'd have to watch the fight back. It's been too long since I've watched it before. But my memories of that fight were that Haney was putting up a nice technical affair in the first couple rounds, just like, what's the case? Just like Scrappy was against Jimenez. And then eventually Loma/Jimenez found a way to just work him to the body, work him to the head, and figure him out. I honestly think that Loma figured out Haney's style and knew how to counter him and knew that his guard was often down, leaving himself open to shots. He didn't have the power that Garcia has, obviously, and he doesn't have the taller frame. He doesn't have the longer reach, but he knew Haney's style, and he was better at Haney's style than Haney was. And I think that he was better at pushing him against the ropes and piecing him up. But I just remember
that's not Haney's style, though.
It's not Haney's style, but he is technical. And I think, honestly, he was throwing more than Haney was as well. And he was landing more, in my opinion. Now, that might not mean that he's winning these rounds, per se, but he was definitely doing it for longer and more consistently.
So I think that the biggest
final stretch, I remember the final stretches was that he was winning the rounds as well.
Yes.
So that's why I think that Loma won, just because I saw it more consistently in the middle and at the end. Now, I don't know if that tallies up to a draw or to Haney barely winning or Loma barely winning, but I know it was close enough that you should either count that as a draw or Haney barely winning or Loma winning. Any other
okay, so it's not a robbery then.
Not by multiple rounds.
So it's not a robbery then.
I think that
you just said that the fight, if you scored it in totality, equates to either a draw or Haney winning slightly or Loma winning slightly. So it's not a robbery.
It's close, but I think the thing is, I think the public, like, it was close, but the public overwhelmingly thought that he won.
Right. And so this is what I was going to say. The biggest injustice when you talk about Lomachenko versus Devin Haney is nobody remembers how good of a fight that was. That was a great fight. Probably Devin's best fight, entertainment wise.
It was worth the money for sure.
Sure. Yeah, no, it was a great match and a close, contentious match at that. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Loma did win down the stretch, and that's what sways the public's perception of a match. Most of the time, like 90% of the time. Oh, he won the last.
I think he was doing it good in the middle though as well. I think he was keeping rounds really close. Again, and you can arguably say that he won some rounds there. Sure,
and that's why I'm saying, down the stretch he certainly did win, and that's what I was going to say. Is it swayed? That's what more sways the court of public opinion.
Yeah,
is that he won the later rounds handily, clearly. So he wins the fight. No, he doesn't. It's because we're scoring 12 rounds of a championship match.
Now, part of it is based on aggression, though, isn't it? And whether or not you're able to push the pace and put on the offensive more. That's what I heard. This is not
MMA. So boxing, again, we're talking about a subjective rule set. Defense is rewarded in boxing. And that's why earlier when I said, when you talk about guys running, sometimes it's just called good boxing, right? Because they're being defensive.
Right.
So defense is Willie Pep has a famous story about he won a round without throwing a punch. Now there's debate over that because this fight wasn't televised. But yeah, he again, like I was telling you before the podcast started, Willie Pep, Lomachenko took a lot of lessons from a guy like Willie Pep, being undersized, being a shorter guy, being a guy who doesn't have a lot of power. Willie Pep was a master at turning guys, could fight from either stance, could turn guys from either stance, make them miss. So yeah, defense is rewarded in boxing. So, that's again, I think you just kind of destroyed your own argument of saying that the fight was an egregious, terrible robbery because you said it was a close match. Close matches don't equal robberies. Arnold Barboza versus Sean McComb was a robbery because he got beat handily like every round and they still gave him the match. Maxie Hughes versus George Kambosos was a robbery because George, I think he knew before the fight even started. They say, "Hey George, why don't you go ahead and take this one off? You'll get the decision. So go ahead and just take it off." I thought that was an egregious
I think that it was egregious in that almost every single boxing platform and website and commentary booth calling the fight, that wasn't the official commentary booth because you can never trust the official boxing pay-per-view commentary booth because they're always seeing a different fight. Well, they all unanimously had it for Lomachenko. Even though it was close, people were paying close enough attention to the point where most people were saying that Lomachenko won. And so to see him win by such a large margin, I think is what got people really angry.
Yeah, he won by 2 more rounds on all of the judges' scorecards.
I think that's what made people think, are you blind? How is it they're
not
a draw?
I scored it 7-5 for Devin live. But again, a close match. There's swing rounds involved.
I think they're just mostly angry with the scorecards.
Sure.
I think they're just absolutely wild and out of there.
Sure, but like even you saying that it was a close match does not equate to like an egregious, blatant robbery to me. Like that's just picking based off of emotion.
Yeah. What if you said it was a small robbery?
I would totally think that your opinion is valid there.
Yeah. So I think most people think that Loma won, and I think in hindsight, in history, because that's the thing. There's always official results and official legacy, and then the people's legacy, like Jones versus Reyes.
Or even
one of those fights where they're
even-
going to say that Loma was the champion after that.
Even a better comparison is Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard.
Exactly.
But also, the biggest problem with Lomachenko, in my opinion, is he had all those amateur fights, and he got into the professional ranks late. And I think Loma, even 3 years before that would have beat Devin handily. But then, Devin's only like what, 22? Right. So, I think Loma.
We know this happens in boxing.
I think Loma missed the boat
when it gets close. When things come down to the wire and people don't know who won, or people know who won, but ever so slightly, the judges find a way to make it the winner for the one who sells more, who would be better for boxing. We saw this with Fury versus Ngannou. And
again, I just told you that Loma is the bigger draw in that situation. So how does that make sense? He doesn't sell more. Devin definitely doesn't sell more.
There are still favorites. There are guys the promoters like. The guys that promoters want to be the star. It's like Sugar Sean O'Malley. We don't know that he's a pay-per-view draw. We don't know that he's a success or that he brings in money, but he's a prospect that might bring in money. So we're going to have this judge give it overwhelmingly to Sugar Sean O'Malley when it comes to the judges' scorecards. It comes down to what the plan is for the promotion. Now, it could be wrong. Now the WWE thought that. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to do a WWE analogy real quick.
No. I think we should end the podcast right here.
They thought that Roman Reigns was going to be a star for 5 years.
Oh my God!
They thought he was going to be a star for 5 years, and they shoved him down people's throats. And he wasn't a star. He was never a star. But they believed that he was a star. And it's the same thing for boxing. They believe these kids are destined for greatness.
We're losing viewers as we speak.
Even when it looks like they're not going to be stars. But they shove them down our throats, knowing that in the great manifest destiny in the future, the great future, utopian future, their guy is going to be the star in the end. When he's not.
Yeah.
And so they make the decisions to give them
push the younger guy because that's the guy who has the most potential. I
like Patty, like Patty Pimblett against Jared Gordon. He's not a star yet.
But yeah,
we have no implication that he's going to be a star, but they gave it to him. And as a necessary step in his journey.
As far as the draw goes, clearly Loma's the bigger draw there. So and again, I think Loma just kind of missed the boat. I think he should have gotten to the pros earlier. That's pretty much my take on that. And that's a testament. He lost his first fight to Salido.
He is a champion, and he will be remembered as.
What belt does he have?
Didn't he win a professional boxing championship at some point?
Yes, he did. He does not currently have any belt. He does not currently have any belt.
I think he was a champion in some other promotion. It was a very long.
No, Loma did. He had all the belts. That's why when Tio beat Loma, he had like 7 belts. And this is when they created the franchise belt for that weight class, which was only done for Canelo. Anyway, I think it's just a ducking belt personally. But Kiwi asked an interesting question. He asks, "What is Loma going to do to Cambosos, or Cambozo?" He calls him. Look, the thing about Cambosos is, apparently, he only does good in the fights he's really supposed to lose. So, I don't know. The problem with Cambosos versus a guy like Loma, who is never clowning, always serious. Apparently, unless he hurts his shoulder, right? Is he's gonna be there, laser focused the whole time. So, I think Loma potentially could stop Cambosos in the later rounds.
Hopefully.
But guess we'll have to wait and see, and we will preview that when it does come up. It is creeping up on us.
But at least we have a people's champion now, a true people's champion for the super lightweight division, and his name is Ryan Garcia.
Well, also Subriel Matias, the actual champion, who isn't a clown. But
yes,
there
are a lot of people's champions out there.
So I think we've came to a mutual agreement here on the smoke portion of the podcast. And I think that's about all I have to say here for this show, our third installment of that Skate Tank podcast. Do you have anything else to say, my friend?
I am not looking forward to the Apex card next weekend. There are 2 fights that I'm interested in. There are 2 fights that I'm interested in, and the rest are rubbish.
Ooh, actually, I probably should tell you this off off of air, but I'm getting my wisdom teeth taken out on Wednesday.
That'll be
See if you
interesting.
can.
That'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I think we should call it off. But maybe see if you can get our friend Isha or maybe
come on as a guest for the skate tank.
Yeah, or maybe Big Red if you want to continue it. If not, guys, we'll probably just call it off
Yeah,
for our preview show.
Then we'll have the talent show.
Right. Oh no.
We'll
do that on Big
Yeah.
Red's channel, man. I don't want that.
Otherwise our
7
channel's
hours
getting canceled.
on here.
Yeah. Well, it was a nice
yeah,
brief existence while it lasted.
I don't know. The preview show for next week, it might be off. We might just do a recap.
I think so. Yeah.
We're
on hiatus until further notice.
Yeah, we might just do a recap next week. But
I can do this by myself. I love talking to myself and looking in the mirror and going, "Oh man, aren't you handsome, Henry? Wow, I like what you did with your hair." You know.
Sure.
So,
yeah, if that's what you want to do, man. We'll talk about it later. But anyway, I think this is it for our third show. Thank you guys for everybody who came through. Jay Sharp, nice to see you. Kiwi, my man. Isha.
Thank you to Kiwi.
JL,
thank you to Jay Sharp.
The guy who was trying to start a religious war earlier. Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. I'm glad
Pleasure.
you're here. See you in 24 hours. See you in 24 hours.
Right. So yeah, that's it for us. Peace to all you motherfuckers. Have a good week. Hope the fucking boss man doesn't ride you too hard.
Damn right.
We're out.
Yes, sir. Thanks for escaping the war zone, you guys. It's Haney. It's Garcia's world. Ryan Garcia's kingdom, peasants. So better give fealty.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Take it easy.
See ya.